The third-string senator, a story of compromise. Scene 1, the living room. Alex's mom never thought she'd be going to Washington. Not like this. Not as a backup senator. Years ago, she'd run as an independent, the third name on the ballot. She'd called her campaign "Government That Works." No one expected her to win. Now, just weeks into a national deadlock, the government had already missed 2 legislative deadlines. First with the top senators, then again with the first wave of backups. By law, the next rotation was being called in. And she was next in line. As she packed her worn Navy suit, she realized what that meant. This new Senate would be a motley crew: teachers, scientists, farmers, technologists, people from over 15 different parties and independents in between. It would be chaotic, yes, but not as likely to be paralyzed. Reaching across the aisle with this motley crew was likely to be much easier. She smiled faintly. A government of misfits, she thought. Maybe that's what it takes to get something done. Scene 2, the news feeds. 2 constitutional amendments had changed everything. The first, the Balanced Reality Amendment, required the national budget to be balanced each year. Spending and taxation had to match, no exceptions, no deficits. It also required that all remaining debt from before the amendment be paid off within 100 years. The amendment had been written to stay simple, leaving the exact payment schedule for Congress to decide later. That follow-on action was stuck. When the debate finally began, the divide was sharp. Some argued the debt should be front-loaded, that the current generation should feel the most pain for the past. Others believed it should be spread evenly, so that every year and every generation would feel the same burden. For 3 years, the question lingered, buried in committees and interpretations. Now the deadline for defining the plan had arrived. If no schedule passed this session, the default clause would trigger, demanding the full balance at once. That would mean a single year of unprecedented taxes, legally mandated and emotionally catastrophic. The question wasn't fairness within the year. It was of fairness between the years, how much of the pain this generation should bear, and how much could be passed to the next. That's where the amendment's deeper design came in. It tied the tax code to human psychology. It wasn't about what people gave versus what they got. It was about how much it hurt. National research councils had spent years mapping the emotional burden of taxation and the comfort of government benefits. If a wealthy family paid 65%, that pain was about the same as an 8% rate for a struggling household. Because the 8% was cushioned by tuition help, healthcare credits, and other supports. The goal was equal felt pain, not equal money. Over time, people stopped arguing about fairness. They simply felt equally taxed. But this year, the question wasn't fairness within the year. It was of fairness between the years, how much of the pain this generation should bear, and how much could be passed to the next. Scene 3, the drive to D.C. The second new amendment was the Functional Governance Amendment. If either House of Congress deadlocked 2 long sitting members were replaced by the next highest vote getters, the ones who came close but never made it. They called them backups, but everyone still said third-string senators. They were the system's restart function, ideological outliers designed to break the jam. Scene 4, the orientation. Orientation felt like the first day of a job no one wanted. Teachers, engineers, a few bartenders, a janitor. All pulled from forgotten corners of the last election. A senior clerk from the Congressional Procedure Office welcomed them, reading from the statute. "Your role," he said, "is to restore function through continuity. You will serve until the pending legislation is resolved." They laughed softly, uncertain whether to be proud or afraid. But the process was clear, and somehow that clarity was comforting. The system was actually working. Scene 5 of the briefing. In their first briefing, analysts from the Department of Fiscal Psychology explained the hurt, happiness equilibrium. Every citizen carried a comfort score derived from long-term behavioral studies, an idea that traced back to early work by thinkers like Daniel Kahneman. What began as psychology had become policy, the emotional logic of modern economics. If your week went smoothly, your tax rate ticked up. If hardship hit, it eased. Adjustments happened through preset formulas that everyone could see. It sounded absurd, but the data was beautiful. Resentment at record lows. Violence nearly gone. Fairness had become a feeling. Scene 6, the hotel room call. That night she called home. Alex said that all the kids at school and everyone's parents were talking about the coming vote. No one liked what was ahead, but most agreed it had to happen. People weren't calm exactly, just settled, the way you feel when you know a painful truth is about to be revealed. They trusted the process more than the outcome. She smiled, unsure why that unsettled her. Across the street, a small playground glowed under the streetlights. Children were still out, laughing, chasing, falling, rising again. Their parents watched from benches, weary but content. She wondered what kind of world Alex would inherit when the books were finally closed. Maybe compromise wasn't just between parties. Maybe it was between generations. Scene 7, the chamber vote. The next morning came the vote, the Debt Equalization Act, defining how the old debt would finally be repaid. The major parties abstained, each hoping the other would take the blame. That left the backups, third stringers holding the future. The analysts were clear: a single-year payoff would break the system. Spreading payments over the remaining 93 years would share the burden, easing today's pain, but passing most of it down the line. She thought about Alex, his quiet optimism, his certainty that things would keep improving. Passing the pain down for 100 years seemed, somehow, unfair. Was it right to give him a lighter world now, only to let his grandchildren carry the weight? Or did true fairness mean every generation should bear at least a little of the load? Perfection was an impossible goal. What they needed now was a least bad solution. One that spread the pain evenly, but still made things a little better each year. A slow climb toward balance. When the vote was called, she pressed yes. Scene 8, the broadcast. The bill passed. The chamber secretary announced, equilibrium restored, average variance 0.04%. Applause followed, rhythmic, relieved, entirely human. Her face filled every screen. The third-string senator who fixed democracy, or at least balanced it. Reporters quoted her speeches, trimmed for brevity, adjusted for tone. She heard her words echoed back on the news, slightly reshaped but still hers. For once, she didn't mind. Scene 9, the return home. Weeks later, the major parties reseated themselves. The backups were thanked and dismissed. Life felt easier. Conversations calmer. The world had found equilibrium. Alex met her on the porch. "Everyone seems happier now," he said. "Are you?" She thought for a moment. "I think I'm less unhappy." Scene 10, the porch sunset. They sat together, watching the sky turn the color of quiet math. The world was balanced now, not perfect but steady. Everyone gave a little more than they wanted to, and got a little less than they hoped for. But the costs and rewards had finally evened out. Alex's mom thought about how long people had chased the idea of winning, of defeating the other side, of proving someone wrong. Now no one really won. They just agreed to share the burden. And somehow that was enough. In the end, the compromise they chose let Alex's generation live a little happier than her own. because even in a world built on fairness, people still found joy in giving more than they had to. That, she realized, was the most human balance of all. In a balanced world, even peace feels like surrender.